Welcome back to the Data for Good podcast, and what a fantastic episode we have in store for you today. So we are joined by Ceren Ahishka. She is head of data at Berlin's Elvar. Now, very relevant topic. Everyone's talking about it. Data products. Now, how do we put products into data? It's a career transition that Ceren has been through. Data as a product, what does that actually mean? How are we learning the basics of data literacy and the merging of roles from product management to product analytics, how that may come together, as well as back end and data engineering. Really forward-thinking episode and great fun recording. Hope you enjoy too. Ceren, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. Today, we're talking about products and products in data. So, kick us off. Why are we talking about that today? Why is it important?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a topic that is rather dear to my heart right now at this point in my career where I'm focusing more on data side of things. So, the question you said, like, why this topic, right? I mean, basically my approach and my, let's say, motto of working with data is bringing the product perspective. So what do I mean by it? Like, if you have anyone listening from, I don't know, with the product experience would know that, the product thinking encourages us to approach any problem with the business from the business perspective, from the user perspective, and from the technical perspective, right? And my way of working, my what excites me about in this era of working with data is technically applying the same thinking methodology into how we approach a data product, right? So understanding the business advantage of the data that we have, understanding what the user's supposed to do with that data, and also thinking about the technical feasibilities of it, right? Is this raw data clean enough? Do we need to enhance it with this and that, etc.? So so this is me coming in and bringing these two disciplines together to, again, with one goal of building great products that users like to use, right?
And it's relevant. I think a lot of companies are starting to realize that data is a product and can be used as a product. And rightly or wrongly, unfortunately, I don't think data folks just yet have the product mindset, although we are trying to grow data folks in that space. I think more interestingly and probably more a better route would be coming from product and taking that into data.
Better route? I'm not sure if there is one route. You're right. I mean, obviously, it depends on the needs all the time, and also it's also the matter of the time when the paths are crossed, so to say. So it's tough for me to say that whether data roles should evolve with product thinking or vice versa. I think this role, as it emerges, is requiring, again, a multidisciplinary approach. So of course it requires certain technical understanding, at least to my view. And this is also, I think, what you mentioned, right? Mostly the data roles have the technical understanding and obviously that strong green character of analytical mind. At the same time, I think as these roles evolve, the product thinking is one of the new characteristics or one of the new key skills that are kind of merging into this.
Who would you say has got the steeper learning curve? Who?
Interesting question.
Put it on you there.
I think I'm a bit more traditional in that sense because I personally have the technical background. So I do believe that having the technical understanding gives you maybe a better edge, but at the same time, one should also always be willing to explore the business needs, right? I think oftentimes us engineers sometimes tend to forget that we are there for, to make business.
Yeah.
The business is only viable when you have actually users that are interested in your solution. So I think that mix is also, I'm not going to undermine the, let's say, the education that is needed to convince yourself into that way of thinking. But I think a technically skilled person should also be able to acquire that knowledge of business from business perspective and users perspective, and eventually evolve into this role.
What do you think the trigger's been? Why do you think now is an emphasis? Someone such as yourself who's transitioned from product into data. What's been the trigger point?
Yeah, I think it has been coming. I have the chance to work in different industries, from automotive to telecommunications to utilities, energy industry, and yet I don't remember any company that is saying that we don't have valuable data, right? Every company, every product actually acquires in the end valuable data. And then I think it had always been for an internal use, so to say. We have valuable data. We should be, I don't know, collecting it. We had the big data trend a couple of years ago, then it evolved into something. And today, especially when we talk about AI, then becoming much more important, because we all came into an understanding again that AI is not there to create magic. It is there to learn from the data that we train it with. So I think with AI hype, it's definitely getting its second, let's say, honeymoon phase. Yet it had been there. I think data had always have an importance in the last maybe 20 years, so to say.
I mean, you see quite a lot of say head of data job descriptions are, we have this amazing data, we need someone to do something with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're to the point. Yeah,
it's what businesses are craving. I think only now we're taking that. It's not a technological problem. It's a business challenge to get something out of the data.
Exactly. The way you mentioned, I think we all came to a realization, we have this data, let's do something about it, and do something is becoming now an external thinking, right? Let's not just sit on it and build some dashboards to whatever we're analyzing. Let's just produce something out of it, what we usually call insights, right? Let's give call to actions to the users. Let's guide them to do something. All these magic words that we are using are actually, or do have data in the background. So I think that shift started to happen, and that also made the data people go beyond internal, what we used to call BI, right? Business intelligence.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Yeah, that is how it used to be. I think we had BI teams that had data warehouses and etc. But now it's data analysts and data scientists or data product managers who are kind of taking the front line. And the BI, I'm sure there are BI teams still there, but I think BI remained in the internal knowledge, or remain serving to the internal customers, whereas data products now evolved into serving to actual users to create business value.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we had it right initially. We had financial analysts, we had quant analysts, we had business intelligence. It was very specific.
Yeah.
And then data became kind of cool, and the data titles came in, data engineer, data scientist, like you just mentioned. We went through a bit of an analytics stage, data and analytics. Feels like we're going full circle again, coming back to business value, and we're tying that to product. Yeah. Would you agree with that? And that's where it's kind of.
I would agree with that. You're right about it. Yes, I think. But one thing is to mention, of course, exactly to the point that you have. We used to have financial, domain-specific analysts, whereas now we expect quite a lot from a data analyst or a data person, so to say. I think the skill now, obviously, I think the industry knowledge has always been valued, right? I mean, that's undeniable. At the same time, this role evolved into more of a plug and play role, right? If you know data, if you're data savvy, you can work on finance data. I mean, this is all applicable to other industries, I would say. I think that's also the transition. I'm not sure if it is the correct way, but I think we see data skills definitely be a bit more horizontal, right? It's not that vertical in that sense.
Tooling as well, making it a lot of easier entry to different areas.
Yeah.
But products. So, what do we actually mean?
Data
What
is a
is
product.
data product?
Yeah, so we mean what I briefly mentioned before, like in any product line that we are offering, that anyone, us as a users, let's call it, using, having those smart insights, smart suggestions, anything that is, I don't want to use data, but technically data-driven knowledge that is injected into the user flow. I think that's when we mean it. That's when we start seeing the first signs of the data product. Let me just give an example. You order from whichever, it's tough to not give any names, a delivery app. And then that app is suggesting you, of course, top picks nearby. Where are those top picks coming from? Obviously, there could be that they always put the new restaurants to suggest you. They could start showing that, okay, you have a profile already, right? And then they start suggesting you similar, the people who order the hamburger twice a week tend to order also, once a week a ramen. Those small suggestions, those small smartnesses is where we start seeing data as a product in the beginning. Then, depending on the business line, it immediately gets bigger and bigger. Today, I'm not even talking about the agentic AI kind of use cases, but maybe one level before, the platforms that offer you competition data, for example, right?
Yeah.
Giving you insights about market dynamics, giving you insights about geographical differences and how your competition is behaving. So we see data productized mostly in the way to inform you about your competition and behavior of the others, so to say, right? I think this is, and then from this onwards, I think it just goes to different verticals and becomes much more specialized in certain domains.
So it sounds like we need to go past the dashboard, for example. If you think that's not the product, that's the road to the product, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm again like thinking about, for example, our mobile banking apps that we're using, right? When they tell me how much I spent last month on, I don't know, groceries versus travel. Yeah, okay. I mean, this is a good analysis, but okay, tell me something I don't know, right? It gets interesting when you start telling me that, okay, your, expenses of groceries seems to be, growing in the last 3 months. Or even better, if you start telling me that, okay, you know what, Ceren, I mean, your expenses of groceries on average is like 10% higher than anyone in Berlin, then I can start thinking about, okay, what am I doing wrong? Am I missing something?
Yeah.
So this is where, data goes beyond dashboard and becomes what we call giving me insights, right? Tell me something I don't know, enlighten me. But again, it should also still be relevant, right? It should still be relevant to the data that I'm producing, something relevant to the actions that I'm taking.
Yeah. You've just kind of sparked an idea, and maybe so a data product isn't, hey, you spent X amount on shopping. It could be, I mean, it's not there yet, but you spend X amount when you go shopping on a Sunday or a Saturday morning, but when you go shopping on a Monday night, you spend twice as much.
Yeah, maybe.
That's probably a better insight, right? That's a data product. I'm just trying to put it into reality for.
As long as it's relevant, these are exactly the parts. And again, what's the business value in this, right? And that's exactly what you need to think about. Do you want, I don't know, the merchants to produce more campaigns? Maybe this information will then trigger the merchants to push more campaigns and say that, okay, I see that most of my users are actually tend to spend more on Monday evenings. So how about, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, then it has both sides basically. But this is exactly the intelligence that we bring data. This is when we start actually analyzing data beyond showing the response, and then start building new business features, if not an actual product itself from the data.
And that's when the product people start earning the money, right? When they've got these insights and they can they can start thinking about new
people start to get excited and say that, oh my God, like this is not just a consumer problem. This is actually maybe a business problem. And then let's take it from from different perspective. Then we start thinking about who are the competition, what are the alternatives, and exactly what I briefly mentioned, right? What is the user interested in? Let's run some user case studies around it and user interviews, and we talk to our technical teammates, and then ask for the feasibility. Can we do this? Can we do that? And one thing, of course, then always follows is all the examples that we give were about past, but then the prediction of the future begins, right? That's exactly today's AI is also mostly about, right? I mean, this is very actual or traditional. Maybe let's go a step before the traditional artificial intelligence comes in. It tells me about, based on my past behavior, starts predicting my future behavior, right? This is again a completely different value proposition that data can offer, and hence your new product.
Statistics had a new marketing campaign and a rebrand, right?
I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
And it starts with data literacy, right? That's the kind of the base level.
Data that is available and data, or let's just put it that way, data that it's produced and data that can be enriched. It's on both sides, because I think when you start thinking or seeing the world from the data perspective, then you start correlating, right? I mean, just the most simplest example, right? Traffic forecast with respect to holiday calendar, with respect to weather conditions, right? I mean, if you just look at traffic data, that's something. But when you start combining with different, the different parameters, so then it starts getting interesting. So I think that once the product thinking is there, then you immediately think about all the adjacent, either friendly products or competitive products, and then you start thinking about the available data and enriched data, and kind of improve the proposition from there on.
Well, I like the traffic, because if you think about it, you put in a internet maps provider, then you put, hey, how long is it going to take me to get here on a Tuesday?
Yeah.
We'd automatically think, right, what's every Tuesday been like?
Yeah.
But if you think of a product way of thinking, it doesn't really matter about the day. It's the weather, it's the events, it's the enriching of data that really matters.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all about telling me something I don't know, right? I mean, you should not be given the same estimates to me going to, the Berlin airport on, what is today, like Friday evening and Sunday morning, right? And this is exactly predicting the future from the past. I mean, this is something that, let's just name it, Google Maps can already do. But the smartness comes from this thinking and then goes beyond.
I think we should coin the term, tell me something. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this what business has been saying to tech, to data for a few years now, and it's just got so loud that kind of it can't be ignored, and we have to be better, right? So business has been saying data built this shiny dashboard and it's this insights, and business people have just been saying, I've been doing this for 40 years. Tell me something I don't know. Has it reached tipping point now, and that's maybe also a trigger?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. It's just the word that you mentioned, right? Beyond dashboard is definitely the thing, because it used to really be, when you go to a traditional product, the page itself is called dashboards. Now business is coming to a realization that the dashboard is such a technical term. What does it even, I mean, it means something, but it doesn't even trigger anything. Whereas when you start calling it insights, or when you make it part of whatever journey it is, this is what the business came in to realize, right? That's I think where then the product the importance of data then being recognized, and then data started being not that internal BI cluster that we're supposed to have for the internal teams, but it became something that we internalize, make it part of our product thinking and product development. And we're even seeing the team structures, that organization structure evolving in a similar way. So data teams are not necessarily, I'm not saying that it's always the rule, but you also see them evolving and being part of the so to say product development cycle.
Cross-functional teams, back-end data engineers, there's a bit of grey area there. They're starting to merge.
Yeah, I mean, I should be asking you about that. Yeah, but that's my observation, I would say, right? I think maybe giving the similar example, right? Product management professionals. This was also not a thing, right? This is not like, I mean, there are similar programs where people graduate from, like, and become product managers. However, it's also the industry needed that role, and certain skills transformed into this role, right? And then we became product management professionals. I think data was there, data engineers definitely were there, but now with the growing need, there is a certain gap in the market, and naturally certain roles, and namely being engineers, especially if they're back-end engineers, I think we also see that transformation happening. Because the infrastructure is also transforming in that way. I think they're also naturally interested, because certain technologies are enabling processing data much easier and much flexibly than the old ways of doing. And this becomes also a natural way of upskilling yourself, right? Just learning technologies. So yeah, I do see those not necessarily roles emerging, but I think it becomes part of the tool chain that an engineer has, right? The data engineering skills are definitely becoming a part of it.
It's I mean, from my perspective, it's probably becoming a spectrum that wasn't anticipated. You've got software engineering on one side and probably analytics engineering on the other, data engineering somewhere in the middle, but it is becoming a lot more fluid as opposed to set positions, especially with, I mean, software engineers have probably got away with it a little bit too long, and not data quality hasn't really been a first priority, shall we say?
Exactly. But at the same time, I think there's also, I mean, there will also be a balance, right? I think we also have the similar discussion from QA engineers, right? Or testers, in software testers and engineers, right? We also
making a comeback.
Yeah, exactly. It's also coming back, right? Because then we are also coming to a realization: is it feasible to expect one engineering team? It's not one engineer to do them all and be good at them all. So I think for the data, we also tend to, especially in smaller organizations, right? We tend to say that, okay, this full stack engineer or a backend engineer who can also handle some data processing or aggregations in the background. Then we start saying that, well, but this data seems to be wrong. We also need to make sure that we validate it. Yeah, we also need to make sure we do this and that and that. And then I think it will also, I mean, it may also reach to a point that it merges until it has its comeback and saying that, okay, you know what, there's a reason that, we need to have a separate person that is responsible for quality versus certain person that is responsible for maintaining the infrastructure and etc. So I think we're exactly in that middle. Now we're merging them. because the need, exactly as you mentioned, was not anticipated. We are lacking the people who would support us working on data products, but it is, it's a lot of work to assure also quality, and so it's very likely that we will definitely need specialized skills, I mean, more than ever in very near future.
I think it was probably fashionable to have a full stack engineer who was good at testing, knew how to deploy, and could work on data as well while had product thinking. It was very hard to find, but there was what everyone craved. I think, like you say now, I think it's the software engineer title might encompass everything. It could be a team of software engineers, one who's a bit more specialist on the QA, one's a little more data focused, one's a little bit more infrastructure focused.
Yeah.
Back to each product team being a little company, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think in the end, I think what should remain is that these are transferable skills. I think every individual, every professional, so to say, find their own motivation in focusing on one or another. If you have the product thinking, I think certain skills, exactly as that mentioned, for example, analytical skills are applicable. I mean, it doesn't mean that product managers will become data analysts or vice versa. But if one realizes that, okay, data analysis is a skill that I want to pursue, becoming or still being a product manager, you can definitely position yourself more closer to a data analyst role, right? Because the distinction is not as clear anymore. It's not like you're either in the data team under whatever chief information officer and under product team under whatever PMO office. It's not like that anymore. So I think that's also what excited me in my career, right? Being able to find those commonalities, different industries and different roles, and sometimes wearing a different hat, yet still keeping the same mentality, right? My product thinking hasn't changed. I'm still approaching the business the way that I used to. Just I'm different lenses right now. My perspective has changed, but how I it's not even transform data. It's like how I perceive the world is still the same. It's just a different perspective now, which I think that's what I like about working in technology, so to say, right? The technology will evolve, and then we should all find our motivation and find what is the unique transferable skill of ours, and then implement it wearing different hats.
You're gonna get two people doing exactly the same job with two different companies, one being a PM, one being a PA, right? And that's the beauty of it. And I'm conscious of time, but I don't think we can not talk about this. The future of data products and even product analysts and how that's going to evolve. Where do you see it? And we'll hold you to it. We'll come back in 12 months and we'll see if you were right or not. But yeah, where do you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, I think I already give a hint of my thinking. I do generally believe that certain roles, depending on the company size, right? I do believe that they will be merging. I strongly see, in product management, for example, we usually have this skill metrics, again, data savviness or analysis skills, just being one aspect, which is okay. It's just, I think every product manager, for example, should have that skill. Yet I think its importance is growing and growing and growing. So this eventually will, I think, in smaller companies, for example, will most likely eliminate the need of keeping a separate data analysts team and the product management team, right? I think it's easier, again, with those transferable skills for a data analyst to educate themselves, so to say, to be more user-centric and understand the business needs and easily take a very important role in product management, or vice versa, right? I mean, a product manager does not need a BI engineer or a data analyst now to analyze their own product insights. Right? With with investing more in that skills, also with what they bring to the table as a business and user understanding, they can easily drive those intelligence by themselves. So I do really see these data analysts and product manager roles merging to a certain degree, until there's another need to maybe separate them. But again, in the near future, I do really believe that we will see them merging and merging. And yeah, with backend and engineers and data engineers, as we discussed, I think they're already slowly being merged, but probably the separation will begin much sooner for them. But let's see. Let's see if I'm right.
Yeah.
Give me 1 year.
Yeah, we will see. We'll come back. Things are changing quicker than ever. I think the softer skills, being able to adapt and not be so set on your specific role, I think is going to be key, because it is the merging, changing, evolving. We will see. But it's been, time's absolutely flown. These are just short, they're sweet, they're bite size. Hopefully, give some people some things to think about. And yeah, if they want to carry on the conversation, they can. Well, where can they find you?
Oh, that's a tough question. I must admit that I'm not super active on social media, but I do have a LinkedIn page. So, I mean, obviously an account. So feel free to just connect me, right? I can't promise to just be immediately responding to you. I limit my social media time, but I promise to, answer. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. But
at some point, amongst hundreds and thousands of messages. But yes, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining. Interesting perspective. And yeah, until next time, thank you very much.
Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao for now.